So, we're about to finish our Dungeons and Dragons campaign of the world's largest dungeon, and you're level 20, level 21, something like that. We're going through the halls of ice and stone. The furthest reaches of the complex were never intended to be part of the Celestial's dungeon. Beneath the rocky foothills at the base of a mighty peak, a system of naturally occurring caves cuts their way through both ice and earth. Over the years, these caverns served as homes for many and varied creatures, from packs of loathsome winter wolves to enormous frostworms. For a time, the caves were even occupied by a fringe cult of humans and humanoids who worshipped a now forgotten god of elemental ice. Whether the Celestials knew of this place when they built their dungeon in such proximity is unclear. Surely, even if they did, it was of no concern to them. The complexes were separated by thick walls of stone and magical wards. Until, that is, the first of the quakes hit. The tremors shook the earth, tore the roots from the mountain, and the barriers between the dungeon and caverns crumbled like bread crust. Slowly at first, but in ever-increasing numbers, the prisoners and inhabitants of the dungeon awoke to the truth that a new flaw had been introduced into the Celestials' grand design. If they could make their way there, they might be able to grasp their freedom at last. Fortunately for the outside world, something else got there first. Two good-aligned titans, brothers named Barcellus and Brasus, began receiving dreams and even waking visions of the Celestial's dungeon and of the new threat imposed to the surrounding area. Whence these portents and warnings came, the brothers never knew. Perhaps they were sent by some higher power who had not forgotten the dungeon as the rest of the world had, or even by some of the Celestials' guards who remained within. Ultimately, it didn't matter. The Titans knew that someone had to stand guard over the dungeon, lest the vile inhabitants escape. They uproot themselves, bidding farewell to the lives they had known, and made their homes here. Barcellus made himself comfortable in the caves of ice, keeping constant watch on the new exit. Brasus chose to guard the main entrance to the dungeon in case the quakes had weakened it as well. It was his long dead body that you had may have run across so long ago, if you even remember that far. I remember. For centuries more, the Titans stood their post, ensuring that no one escaped. Few creatures made it as far as the exit from the caverns, and Barcellus ensured that no one survived to take advantage of it. It was a hard, lonely existence, but a necessary one. Some decades ago, it all changed. In the mountains near the complex dwelt the Red Ice Tribe, a powerful clan of frost giants, led by Derro, chieftain and high priest of the aspect of winter, the elemental power of ice and war, who may even be the same power worshipped long ago in these self-same caverns. The red ice conquered many of the surrounding lands. Eventually, through powerful divinations and investigation of local legends, Derro learned of the Celestial's dungeon and of the Titan guarding it, and Derro devised a plan. The giantess cleric realized that, mighty as he was, he would be more powerful still with a wealth of magical riches and an army of the vilest creatures under his command. If he could wrest control of the exit from the Titan, he could bargain with potential escapees, trading them their freedom for any wealth they might have acquired from others in the dungeon, and for vows of fealty and service to his clan. Barcellus was a mighty foe, but between the red ice's overwhelming numbers and the mighty magics in Derro's command, even he was overcome. The frost giant chieftain did not slay the Titan for fear that the guardian's death might be sensed by other celestial or outer planar beings. Instead, with the power of a miracle, he imprisoned the Titan deep in a block of ice where he remains, physically trapped and mystically helpless. The Red Ice Tribe took over the catacombs, and Derro took on the name Barcellus, allowing others to believe the Titans still stood watch. Unfortunately for Jardir, his plan was not worked particularly well. Few inhabitants of the dungeon have managed to reach the complex of ice, and most of those that were unwilling to bargain had to be destroyed. The red ice has gained a few magical items to add to their hoard, but little else. Still, Jardir is not about to give up. Even one powerful ally gained from his efforts would make them worthwhile, and anyway, the red ice have settled nicely into their new home. Of course, the tribe does not control the entirety of the complex. Wild monsters, escaped slaves, and even a hideous fiend from deep in the dungeon have their own lairs, areas the red ice giants have not yet managed to acquire. It is through the chaotic and violent region that you must pass if you would regain your freedom. Your final challenge is upon you, and only if you're the bravest and most skilled do you even have a slim hope of besting it. So now everything is about to be wrapped up. Apparently there were 2 Titans at the beginning. You saw the dead body of one, and I guess a ice giant is pretending to be that dead Titan. That never works out well. Pretending to be someone you're not, taking on the name of someone to be killed. It's not good. So you're moving through an open cavern. Streaks of filthy ice run down the walls of this wild cavern. Frost-covered dirt crunches underfoot, sending minuscule particles up into the air. The earth here has clearly been disturbed. Quite recently, and by either a great many creatures or a few very large ones, sounds echo strangely, growing louder towards the cavern's narrower side. The chamber appears to be empty of living beings, though it is difficult to see to the far side or into the various nooks and crannies. Symbols and carvings. Though they are difficult to see in ambient light, numerous symbols have been carved into the wall of this nick in the cavern. In fact, it appears as though the marks have been altered numerous times. A sharp turn. The holes turn to the left where it swiftly comes to an end. The passage continues forward as well, but narrows dramatically as it does so to a width of little more than 5 feet. Guard post. As you proceed down the hall from the intersection with a trap, a loud blast, perhaps from a trumpet, echoes from the passages ahead of you. Even as the reverberations fade, you hear footsteps. Though difficult to tell with all the echoes, they sound as though they are moving in a direction away from you. The hallway widens here, allowing access to a small chamber to the south and a large cavern ahead of you. You hear bustling sounds up ahead. In the chamber to your left, staring at you with wide eyes, is a shaggy creature clad in armor and furs. Even as you spot it, it releases a loud blast of sound from a primitive horn it holds to its lips. It's hostile, you slay it for XP. Communal chamber. This enormous cavern, vaguely mushroom-shaped, clearly seconds as a communal camp and sleeping area. Primitive pallets and fur pelts lay strewn about the room. They may reach to the walls. It is difficult to see with the available lighting or into the various nooks. The smell is almost enough to make your eyes water. Clearly not all hides have been tanned or cured, and even an extreme cold decay has set in on more than a few of them. The sleeping pallets are all empty, but the chamber is not. Large humanoid creatures so shaggy that you cannot tell where your own fur leaves off and the furs that they are wearing begin. Advance on you from various points around the room. They hold weapons in hand, and their faces are twisted in snarls of rage. You slay all these hostile creatures. They were bugbears. About 12 of them. You slay all of them. There's a portcullis. A primitive but effective portcullis blocks further passage down this corridor. The crossbars are on the gate are formed from the bones of some creature far larger than a human, They appear to be held together with ice so thick that it is a consistency of stone. You do not see any obvious means of opening the gate behind the portcullis, except two passages, one to the northeast, one to the southeast. Both are blocked by curtains, so you cannot see what may lie beyond. Treasure chamber. Pushing aside the curtain to the northeast, you see a corridor that extends less than 100 feet and then stops abruptly. It widens as if for restless, creating something of a chamber. At the furthest end within the chamber are a number of crates, chests, leather pouches, and other receptacles. Chieftain's quarters. Even as you push aside the curtain blocking access to the chamber, a fierce howl comes in your direction. A blur of shaggy fur and spinning blades slams into the party, or just you. You kill that creature. This side of the cavern has been made up of fairly extravagant, under the circumstances anyway, living chamber. An actual wooden bed frame supports layers of thick furs, and a number of old but thick wool cloaks have been sewn together to form a rug. Broken weapons, bits of armor, helms line the walls, and their various sundry sizes, styles, and suggest they come from a wide range of races. A fire pit sits in the center of the room, dug into the compacted earth surrounding by stones, where a small but cheerful fire crackles away within it. The curtain I prevented you from seeing into this chamber from the gate is thick, good both for privacy and for keeping the warmth of the fire from leaching out of the chamber. Well, there's a high-level bugbear here. You fight and kill it, or slay it for XP. Excavation. The great chamber is clearly a natural cavern. The floor is uneven and a little littered with columns and stalagmites. The walls are rough, jagged, and riddled with crevices. The sound of hard labor, hammer blows, and cracking rock echo from the far end of the cavern. From where you stand, you cannot see who or what might be the source of those sounds. This portion of the cave does not seem as natural as random as the rest. Clearly someone is digging here to extend the cave rest, forming a small passage or an antechamber that nature did not intend. Two bugbears, level 6. You kill both of them easily with no challenge. Entryway. This cavern starts wide enough, and even where it is narrow to the east, the corridor remains sufficiently broad to encompass creatures far larger than you. The ice and rock that make up the floor are broken and uneven and should not cause you a great deal of trouble if you pick your way across it carefully, but you would not want to take it at a dead canter. Here and there, enormous limbs and broken bits of equipment jet through the ice. Clearly, not all the protrusions and mounds on the floor are natural. Frostworm Cavern. The wide passage opens into an enormous cavern of smooth ice as the floor. Numerous passages and sub-caverns continue in all directions, but you have little time to examine any of them. From the center of the room, an enormous worm-like creature with gaping mandibles lunges your direction, sliding across the ice with frightening speed. Frostworm attack. You kill the frostworm. Nest and clutch. The large side of this cavern has a ring of broken ice and rock against the northern wall. The floor shows signs of warping and is not smooth as it is to the south. Within the circle of shards are a number of strange objects. They appear to be ice formations, but their perfect oval shape suggests they may not be natural. Merle. From a distance, the walls in this almost rectangular alcove look just like all those in the surrounding area, rock covered by layers of ice. Upon closer inspection, however, it becomes clear that these walls are not normal. Though it is cracked in many places, solid with age hidden behind thick sheets of ice, you see that a strange mural adorns all three of these walls. Specific details are difficult to distinguish, but you are fairly certain you make out human shapes in various poses and postures. They appear to be prostrating themselves before icons that look like snow-capped mountains. Among the mountains are shapes much larger than the humanoids depicted. These shapes represent white dragons, blue-bearded and white-skinned giants, and other such winter creatures. Abandoned temple. After squeezing through a bottleneck in the corridor, you find yourself in a moderately sized chamber of haphazard and jagged shape. Although they are mostly hidden beneath ice and dirt, you can make out portions of various abstract symbols carved into the floor. They too are jagged, almost sharp, somehow disconcerting to look at for more than a few moments at a time. Near the south end of the chamber stands a rectangular block of stone, perhaps 5 feet long by 2 feet wide by 4 feet high. These stones is obviously not native to the caverns, for the block is clearly made of polished white marble, which you have never come across in the region. Directly behind the marble stands an iron disc the size of a carriage wheel, upon which are carved more abstract symbols, intertwined with draconic forms, heavily burdened human faces and mountain peaks. Mephitelaire. This cavern is narrow but high. The ceiling appears to be at least 20 feet from the floor. Numerous ledges and holes bedeck the walls, and several columns of ice and rock rise from the floor to various heights. Mephit retreat. The corridor leading from the high-ceilinged cavern is extremely narrow, less than 2 feet wide. Further, you can see that it twists and turns as it goes, and the walls are rough. Compared to the other caverns you have seen in the region, this particular cave is tiny, less than 15 feet on each side. The ceiling is only about 7 feet from the floor, making the chamber feel even more cramped. A thin corridor, just as narrow and treacherous as the one that led you here, leads off to the southwest. Lair of the Great Lizard. As you round a bend in the cavern wall, an earth-shaking roar rattles your eardrums, and then the earth literally does shake as an enormous reptilian horror, eyes aglow with hate and skin black as midnight, charges towards you on 2 powerful ledges running beside it as a bearded, white-skinned giant wearing furs and carrying a pair of axes. The gap is in the stone beside you and is almost too wide to be properly called a cavern, and it's really little more than an exceptionally large bend in the wall. Still, it's clear that something has been using the area as a lair. Furs and stones are piled into an enormous circular nest, and a pallet of furs laid out besides it looks almost like a primitive bed for a giant. The entire place smells of reptilian musk. You can only imagine how much worse it would be in a warmer climate. There's a mega raptor here that you fight and kill. Refuge. Winter Wolf Den. Trainer. This broad cavern has a number of niches along the wall, holes in the crevice in the stone. The remains of a large fire pit and camp are left near the wall. From within the crevices, eyes gleaming glare at you. Abandoned camp. Gone fishing. The lakeshore. Fishing again. Fishing camp. Young adult warn. Rock Jumps Hall, Frost Giant Barracks, Guest Lair, Storage Cave. Abandoned Outpost, The Dead, Entry Chamber, Ice Corridor. Double Traps, Purple Worm Lair, Bone Devil Lair, Slave Cave. Crevice, Huge Cave. Corpse Storage Pool Room, Tegraw's Chambers, Cairo Hydra Lair, Sentry Camp, Pit, Slave Pens, Refuge Pit, Rest Cave, Black Pudding Cave, Central Mines, Deep Mines, Remorhaz Lair, Shrine to the Aspect of Winter, Side Waiting Chamber, The Exit, Assembly Area, Barcelus's Legacy, Jardarier's Throne Room. Well, you end up coming across Foundor Tulo and Amarantiel and Barcellus and Brazos, and you slay all of them and complete the world's largest dungeon. And you pass level 20, you're like level 24 now. Congratulations.